February 1943, central Tunisia. In the wide, unforgiving desert around the small town of Sidi Bou Zid, the United States Army stood on the edge of its first true confrontation with the German Army on land. On military maps, Sidi Bou Zid appeared insignificant, a forward position meant to screen roads and delay any enemy advance. In reality, it was about to become the place where modern mechanized warfare exposed every weakness of an inexperienced force without mercy. After Operation Torch, American morale in North Africa was high. The landings had succeeded, ports were secured, and confidence spread quickly through the ranks. Many believed that industrial power, numbers, and determination would compensate for any lack of experience. What they had not yet faced was an enemy forged by years of relentless combat, an army that understood tanks, terrain, and tempo at a brutal, instinctive level. At Sidi Bou Zid, the difference between an army learning war and an army living it would be laid bare. The American defensive plan was built on dispersion. Units were placed on isolated hilltops, separated by miles of open desert, intended to dominate the terrain from above. On paper, it looked sound. In practice, those hills became islands. There was no depth, no flexible reserve, and no true integration between infantry armor, artillery, and air support. In the open desert, mobility mattered more than elevation, and the Americans had underestimated that reality. Before dawn on February 14th, the desert began to move. Thin columns of dust appeared on the horizon, growing steadily larger. German armored formations advanced in multiple thrusts, slipping through the gaps between American positions rather than striking them head-on. This was not a reckless assault, it was a deliberate, calculated maneuver designed to fracture the enemy's structure before crushing it. When American observers finally realized they were being approached from several directions at once, the response was instinctive: counterattack with tanks. M3 Lee tanks rolled down from defensive positions into the open desert, searching for the enemy. In that moment, the battle was effectively decided. Lured into open ground, the American armor entered carefully prepared kill zones. German anti-tank guns opened fire, Panzer units maneuvered freely, and the engagement turned brutally one-sided. The shortcomings of American equipment and doctrine were exposed immediately. The M3 Lee, tall and awkward, struggled to bring its firepower to bear. German Panzer III and for tanks, lower and more agile, coordinated tightly with infantry and artillery. One by one, American tanks were disabled, burned, or abandoned. Crews bailed out under fire, sprinting across open sand with nowhere to hide. On the surrounding hills, American infantry fought desperately. Shallow foxholes offered little protection as shells burst among rocks and sandbags. German tanks climbed the slopes, firing directly into defensive positions. What had been intended as strong points became traps, places with no escape and no reinforcement. Communications faltered. Orders arrived late or not at all. Air support failed to appear in time. Artillery could not be effectively coordinated. The system collapsed under pressure. At close range, the fighting turned savage. Rifles cracked at short distance. Grenades exploded among boulders, and wounded men lay scattered across the slopes. Individual acts of courage were everywhere. Soldiers dragged wounded comrades to cover, held firing positions long after hope had faded, and resisted with determination that could not alter the outcome. Modern war, however, is not decided by bravery alone. It is decided by organization, coordination, and tempo, and in all three, the Germans held absolute control. By February 15th, the battle was over. Sidi Bou Zid had fallen. Thousands of American soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured. More than 100 tanks were destroyed or abandoned across the desert. Thick columns of smoke rose from blackened wrecks, marking the end of a dangerous illusion. Even more critically, the road to Kasserine Pass, the gateway into western Tunisia and Algeria, now lay open. In the aftermath, there was no celebration, only silence. American units withdrew through dust and wreckage, exhausted and stunned. There were no excuses left to make. This was not bad luck. It was the consequence of flawed command, outdated thinking, and a fundamental underestimation of the enemy. The consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Senior leadership was replaced. Discipline was tightened. Training was restructured. The U.S. Army was forced to confront the reality that tanks could not fight alone, infantry could not be scattered, and air power could not remain detached from ground operations. Combined arms warfare ceased to be theory and became survival doctrine. The lessons of Sidi Bou Zid were written in blood, but they were learned. The Battle of Sidi Bou Zid was not decisive in the grand scope of the Second World War. It did not end a campaign or destroy an army, but it marked something equally important. The moment the U.S. Army was forced to grow up. It was the shock that stripped away complacency and replaced it with hard-earned understanding. The soldiers who withdrew from Sidi Bou Zid in defeat would not remain the same force. Many of them would fight again, in Sicily, in Normandy, and across Western Europe. They would return better trained, better led, and far more dangerous. In that sense, Sidi Bou Zid was not just a defeat, it was the painful beginning of transformation. Sidi Bou Zid stands as a reminder that modern war offers no forgiveness for inexperience. It punishes mistakes instantly and without sentiment. For the United States Army, February 1943 was a brutal awakening, a slap hard enough to reshape everything that followed.